Hello, loyal listeners, and welcome to the SOS-Radio podcast. All paranormal, all the time. My name is Jason Knight, president and founder of Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies, and your host into the unknown. This evening we have a fascinating guest, hailing all the way from far northeast United States, New Hampshire. Followers of the SOS-Radio.com website may know this gentleman as a regular contributor to our monthly newsletter, Into Infinity, Mr. Jason Yancey. Now, Jason Yancey is a mechanical engineer by trade with a bachelor's degree from Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston. In his spare time, Jason's an independent researcher investigating Glacial Erratic. Jason grew up in Gary, New Hampshire, not far from what's known as American Stonehenge, a monolith carbon dated to over 4,000 years ago. And having grown up around American Stonehenge, kicked off Jason's journey to find out who made this monolith, American Stonehenge, why they made it, and how they make these huge stone structures. He wondered if there were more structures like this in and around his area, and he's found them in Canada, Maine, New York, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New Jersey, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Jason Yancey specializes in finding unknown megalithic stone structures by simply stumbling upon them while out exploring or by using Google Maps and Google Earth. Jason documents these structures and posts his fascinating findings to his YouTube channel, Glacial Erratic. Tonight we're going to talk to Jason in depth about his fascinating research, what these monoliths are, why are they located all over the United States and the world for that matter. All of Jason's contact information will be included in the detailed show notes for this episode. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to the listeners Mr. Jason Yancey. Jason, say hello to the listeners of the SOS-Radio podcast.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me. It's been a while since I last spoke with you when you came to visit Dighton Rock.
Yeah, no, great to have you. Thank you. Let's talk about that. We had a really chance serendipitous encounter, I would say. Me and the guys, Joe Erie, Dave Black, and myself, we were in the Bridgewater Triangle filming a bunch of different podcast episodes at infamous areas within the triangle there in Massachusetts, southeast Massachusetts. And we decided to go to Dighton Rock. And it was while we were at the Dighton Rock Museum that you and I bumped into one another. And it kind of kicked off this awesome relationship that we formed. You're a regular contributor to our newsletter, Into Infinity, which listeners could sign up for by going to the SOS-Radio.com website. And now here we are recording this podcast. What do you think about that choice encounter we had?
Oh, sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I said, what did you think about that choice encounter? It was kind of strange.
Oh, yeah, that was really strange. Yeah, it was a lot of things lined up just right for me to be there, for you guys to be there. And, it just so happened I was just investigating that particular area on that day, and I found you guys there. And just like we were talking about before, if you guys weren't there, actually, I would have missed the closing time, and I wouldn't have gotten any pictures of Dighton Rock.
Yeah, they kept the museum open for us, and since we were there, then you came in, should have been closed. We should have never met. So, this world that we find ourselves in, this paranormal world, it's very strange. The world knows.
Yeah, and didn't Joe have a encounter at the other place near there? Was it
we went to Profile Rock.
Profile Rock, that's right. Yes.
Profile Rock, yeah, and listeners could, cruise back a few episodes to the Profile Rock episode, and yes, he was up there kind of towards the apex of Profile Rock, and something spooked him really good. Something whispered in his ear, said his name, and he had this real crazy kind of feeling come over him. He was really freaked out, and he doesn't scare easily. So yeah, another monolithic structure, kind of.
That's right. Yeah. I did get a chance to go over there. Yeah, I went over there after I met with you guys, and they were just about closing down too. And I got a few pictures off, but I did get a pretty strange feeling over there.
Yeah, definitely an interesting spot.
On. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so let's backtrack a little bit. I kind of gave an intro about you with your, that you hold the degree in mechanical engineering from Wentworth Institute of Technology in Boston.
That's right. Yep.
But yet in your spare time, so you have this very scientific, kind of hard-nosed degree training, right? Mechanical engineering.
Right. Exactly.
But in your spare time, you're investigating something that's not so hardline, not so scientific, correct?
No, yeah, and that's where I really branch off from, I guess, your average engineer. They really like to stick with things they know, and they don't like to go into the unknown, and that's where I feel most comfortable, actually. And even for my job, I do all custom designs and have never been done before. So, just in that fact alone, it's a lot of risk and a lot of unknowns that can happen. You gotta just figure it out, and it's kind of like a big puzzle to me. I keep finding little pieces to the puzzle here and there. I think eventually one day I'll see the whole puzzle.
Wow. So what brought you into this kind of unknown field of science, this glacial erratic?
Yeah, so that's what really took me back when I started researching, and I found the term glacial erratic, and the term glacial erratic means kind of exactly what it means. It's a larger boulder, apparently too large for any man to even attempt to move, and these stones are supposedly placed by a glacier, picked up from far away, dropped off, balanced, and they emit these like strange characteristics about them, like they should be falling over and stuff like that. And they defy logic, actually. So all these stones that they find that they can't explain, they call them a glacial erratic.
So then, by that term, erratic, it's not a glacier per se, picking these things up, carrying them across the world, and depositing them haphazardly,
exactly.
Is it?
It's not, no, and that's what I guess they're trying to have you believe, but when you start investigating, if you actually just type in glacial erratic, you start looking at these stones, they are all obviously placed there and balanced, And even one of these shows I've been watching lately, Treasure Island and Curse of Oak Island, they have a couple of featured,
sure.
Yeah, they have a couple of featured shows on actually stones, and you should see these stones that they're actually showing on TV. And the Treasure Quest, they call them Jesuit stones, and they're stone markers. And it's unbelievable. It's exactly what I'm seeing over here. They're like huge balanced boulders, and they have a pointed direction where they're pointing. So they're definitely like they're pointing to some either cardinal direction or according to the treasure quest, it's pointing towards the treasure, and that's what they're going after. But I'm actually just going after, who are these people and why are they moving these huge stones?
Right, and what technology are they using, did they use to move these stones?
Exactly, yes, and that's what brought me down to Coral Castle, because Coral Castle was kind of like in the same realm. This 100-pound guy is moving these, 100-ton stones by himself. And, if you ask a guy at my job to move something 100 tons by himself without a crane, he'll just laugh at you. It's just dangerous. Actually, it'd be dangerous to do just by yourself with the crane. Forget about, everything else. So
yeah, and of course, Coral Castle, South Florida. What is it? Just south of Miami. or in Dade County, something like that.
Yep, yep. And
Yeah.
even I was watching a video about Edgar Casey. He was saying that he's a sleeping prophet, and when he was sleeping, he would make these predictions, he'd have this access to this knowledge. And he said like the pyramids and all these ancient monuments weren't actually built. They were actually built using frequency and vibration. And he said it was a lost technology that we don't use today. So
frequency
they actually,
and vibration.
Yep. So they never actually used any cranes. That's all they had. Their focus energy with frequency and vibration. They were able to quarry these stones, carve them, lift them, anything you want to do. And it's just think about that. As far as engineering goes, it's a huge amount of energy. I know what it takes to move, 100 tons, and it's not easy. And a lot of these stones are like placed in such precarious places, like you can't even get to them, and there's no way to get a crane over there.
Right. Now, is there a certain term for this energy that you're referring to?
No, but I guess it runs along with, that guy Hutchinson. He has done some experiments with the government, confiscated equipment, and he was doing that exact thing. He was playing with that Tesla coil, and he was shooting radio waves and a couple of different types of waves at different objects. And he was getting them to levitate. He was getting objects to blend into each other. And, just like Tesla was really, Tesla's really out there. He was like, head of all these inventions. And, he even said, if you want to learn about the universe, learn about frequency and vibration. So I heard about, Edgar Casey talking about the same thing. I was like, man, these guys didn't even, they weren't even connected to the same topic.
Right.
But unless for, just for that with the frequency and vibration. So I know there has to be something to it, and especially with the core capsule, he has that flywheel that's still there. And, that has to have something to do with it, because he has these spinning magnets, and he's got it on an old crankshaft. And I've been down there. I've spun it myself, and the thing's solid. This guy had, he was a really good engineer just by trade, because, he knew about, leverage of weight, and, it was just in his experience too. He worked in moving the redwood trees in Washington. So he had some knowledge to move large objects just from his trade.
Wow. But you think the bulk of this was done with these frequency and vibrations, not necessarily levers and pulleys and cranes?
No. Right, exactly, yeah. I think that was just his base, and then, however, maybe he was like Edgar Casey, tapped into that knowledge and he was able to do it. But what's interesting is, he wasn't trying to give away his secrets, he wasn't trying to tell anybody how he did it, or he would just say, I think even his science says, you will be seeing unusual accomplishment. So right there he's telling you, he didn't use normal technology to do this.
Wow.
Right at the front sign, he's telling you right in your face, so. And also his whole castle is based on alignments to the stars, and he has that telescope that points to the North Star. And
right.
What's interesting about that is a lot of these stones, the Narragansett Indian tribal history, they have a organization where they have these surveyors go out to these sites and they mark each stone, and they've shown that each stone matches up with a certain constellation. So these stones that appear randomly placed, if you actually plot each one, it'll plot out like a series. It'll plot out Orion. And one guy actually got back to my YouTube channel. He told me that once you start plotting these, you can find stones that are buried, because you can find the missing stars that aren't on the constellation that you've marked.
Wow.
So that's my next toy I'm getting. I'm getting a GPS locator.
Yeah, I would say.
And that's how the Narragansett Indian tribe got their grant, I guess, to buy the land to make it so nobody could build on it. So it'd just be like a state park kind of deal.
I see.
So in even their own land, they were going to build they're going to add some building to it, and they found their own alignment to the Orion constellation, and they found this thing that they call the star seat. So if you actually sit in the seat, it's a stone seat. If you put your back right up against the back, it points your face directly at Orion constellation.
In which structure is this?
This is in the on the Narragansett Indian reservation. They were building a new building, and they found that some of the stones around there had alignment to the Orion constellation.
And that's the one with the star seed. Got it.
Yeah. And so basically, what it comes down to is they call it as above, so below. So when you look up at the sky, you see the Orion constellation. When you look down on Earth, it's reflected down on the Earth with the big stones.
Incredible.
And the big question is, who did this? Why? Why was the star so important? I think it has something to do with some cosmic energy that they were, just trying to bring to light or something, that we have no idea today. Yeah. So, but I mean, it even comes down to I can't even say for sure that the Native Americans were responsible for all these, but even if they were, this technology is found basically all over the world. So it's not just Native American technology; it was brought in from some other higher advanced civilization.
And who might that higher civilization be, Jason?
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. Because even the question about the Egyptians, that if they built it or if it was already there when they got there.
True.
So it's an ongoing investigation for sure. But I'm always finding some connection. Even on my YouTube channel for Glacial Erratic, I show the same stone in different locations. And so I'm trying to prove that, I'm going to different sites, but it just so happens to have the same carvings and the same shape and everything, but at a totally different site. So it proves that it's not just a glacier just dropping them randomly, and even that's
a great point.
Exactly. So I'm trying to get hard evidence. So basically, when I watched the video of the Narragansett Indian tribe, the guy Doug Harris, he said, just like I told you before, let the landscape speak for itself. And so I think what he meant by that is get the evidence to show that these stones are not random. And there's so much evidence, as long as, once you get one piece and then another piece, it goes beyond a coincidence. These stones are not just randomly dropped by a glacier. They were definitely placed, but that even brings up another question. If they were placed, these stones are huge. How would they go about doing that? And that
right, because yeah, and you mentioned earlier, which I find fascinating, that some of these megalithic, massive, I don't know how many ton boulders are actually balanced upon one another. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So this is a good example. Cobble Rock in Woonsocket. I have a picture on my website. It shows some of the settlers that came over and they took a picture with this stone. And it's just like you're saying, it's just teetering on the edge of falling over. And everybody was surprised. It was like a rock people go to take their picture with. And one night, it actually fell over, and it just so happened to be a hurricane that night during a full moon, which I'll get into later. But I think that has something to do with it, with the full moon pulling on the Earth, and something about the negative ions that a thunderstorm or a hurricane brings in. You know, you have an abundance of negative ions in the air. And, you know, that might have something to do with this frequency and vibration thing, you know. But,
that's okay.
Yeah, and so recently I went to the Ganjiwam site in Groton, Connecticut, and I went on the tour. I paid $15, and, you know, the guy had his traditional, you know, storyline. The farmers put everything there. But he was very interesting about the tour. He walked by some extremely important stones. Like, he walked by a stone just perfectly pointed like a triangle. Walked right by it, didn't say one thing about it. And then on the way out, there are these huge stones standing on the edge of a cliff, perfectly spaced from each other, 500 tons each. And he didn't say what, he just said, oh yeah, there's some interesting stones up there. Didn't think there was any relation to the site at all.
So these massive things.
Yeah, his eyes are just farmers. Farmers wouldn't mess with stones that big. They wouldn't do that. So he doesn't even talk about it.
So these massive things are on a cliff. How do they get up there? How are they staying there?
Yes. And that's the thing. They almost, whoever placed you there, it's like they wanted to place it in such a way that you know there's not a doubt that they were just dropped there for no reason. You know?
Like saying, hey, look at me.
Yes, look at me. Look at how different I am. And that's the thing. It's almost like this hiding in plain sight. If you're not looking for it, or if you don't know what to look for, you just walk by it, you don't even know it's there. And that's exactly what the tour guide did. You know, I kept bringing all these different things up to him, and he's like, oh, nope, the farmers put those up there.
Okay.
And that brings me into another thing, too, you know, that's a big story around here, that a lot of these stone walls were put up by clearing the fields, and they had to do something with the stones that they cleared the fields with, so they built the walls. But in the walls were to hold cattle in, right? But in order to hold cattle in, you need 4 walls, and a lot of these stone walls just meander through the woods for miles and miles and miles, not even connecting to another stone wall.
So what are they trying? Yeah, what's that going to keep in?
Nothing. That's another thing too. So you could keep sheep in, but you can't keep wolves and predators out because the walls are only 3 feet high.
Wow. Yeah, and listeners, in the latest edition of Into Infinity magazine, our monthly newsletter, Jason writes extensively about these stone walls of New England, what he's talking about right now.
Yeah.
And you're saying that over 250,000 miles of stone walls?
Yes, that we can actually see from the satellite. That's what they, I think there was a national database of fences, and they did a survey of New England, just New England alone, and over 250,000 miles. And if you take that into context, to go around the Earth once, and you know, the one complete path around the Earth is 25,000 miles. So you could wrap these stone walls 10 times around the Earth.
I find it hard to believe that farmers laid.
I know. It's ridiculous. And actually, I did the calculation for the actual volume. The volume of these stone walls far surpasses by like 10 times all these other ancient megalithic sites. You know, it's like one massive megalithic site strewed out through the walls. And it's like you could only see like the pattern if you like burn down all the trees. You can actually see what these stone walls are making. You know.
And what are they making?
Like, I have no idea, but it's like, you know, just like I said, a lot of these stone walls too, like I found, they'll lead themselves to these huge balanced boulders. And I actually got in an argument with a guy at work. He told me there was no connection. I said, I'm just telling you what I'm finding out there. Every time I follow a stone wall, I end up, it literally ends at a humongous boulder that's crushing a small stone. And just like I said in my last interview, they might have been making some type of electrical field with the piezoelectricity.
And there, yes, that's what I want to definitely talk about.
Yeah,
So I'm on your YouTube page right now, Glacial Erratic, for the listeners, and I'm seeing one called Balanced Rock, North Salem, New York, and it looks like the perfect example of this megalithic boulder balanced or pressing down upon a much smaller stone.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you just mentioned this piezoelectricity.
That's right.
Could you talk about, because I had an experience with you. You turned me on to this piezoelectric thing when we interviewed you at Dighton Rock during our Bridgewater, Massachusetts trip.
Right.
I was sitting there talking with you, interviewing you, and you asked me to pass 2 pieces of quartz, so hold a piece of quartz in my hand, place a piece of quartz onto the picnic table we were sitting at, and then just very slowly pass 1 piece of quartz over the other. And I was doing it, interviewing you, kind of forgot about it. I just kept my hand moving. And then all of a sudden, Jason, I felt that, you call it the heartbeat, and that's exactly what it felt like. There was power there. There was an energy there for a split second.
Yeah.
Is this, and it shocked me. I freaked out. Listeners could hear it in that episode, but is this what you're referring to as piezoelectricity?
Yeah, I think that energy that you were feeling, that has, I think it does have a part in the piezoelectricity, and I know for sure that these stones can give off far infrared energy. And that's invisible.
Far infrared energy.
Yeah, and that's invisible to the human eye. We can't see it, but I think when you pass that stone over the other stone, the literal infrared energy from both of the stones started repelling each other. And it's like you have to get that right spot. And you know, I was messing with. I do this at work sometimes, and I'll just pass it right over. You know, just like you were saying, not even paying attention. And I kid you not, this stone vibrated out of my hand and just dropped straight down.
Wow. And they're not magnets. They're just regular stones.
Yeah, regular stones. Regular quartz stones who got off the beach.
It really is amazing. Listeners, if you could try that experiment, do it. You'll see yourself. So that begs the question. If I was able to feel that energy from these tiny pieces of quartz, right? Exactly. What about these monstrous boulders pressing on top of, these smaller structures? What sort of electricity could that produce? Or what sort of energy, I should say, could that produce?
Yeah, exactly.
Given the scale, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people try to go with the Native American thing. They're like, oh, they're trying to just prop the boulder, but there's something way more, because the pattern just keeps repeating over and over again. So the goal of these people is to get the largest boulder that they can, and they actually do the calculation, because if they made the wrong calculation, they crush the stone that they're trying to, the stone would just break apart when they put the big boulder on top. Yeah, so they had to really calculate how much pressure over that much area it was able to take. And I think I can sit down and calculate for each of these stones a percentage of they call it deformation, how much an object changes shape under stress. And I think they were trying to deform these rocks to a certain percentage to get that field to come off. And I'm still in the process. I didn't get to do it this time around, but I'm going to do the wrap one of those stones that is being scorched. I'm going to wrap it with the magnetic wire. They call it enamel wire. That's what they use to make generators. And
okay.
So I'm going to basically wrap this coil of wire around this stone and have the end so I can get a reading. I'm going to see if I can find the field that's coming off of this thing. Or even hook up a LED light, see if it lights up.
That's amazing. You might be on to, go ahead.
Yeah. It's because they could have been just leaving these things to show you that what type of energy they were using, and just to keep it for the entire human race, so you can't just squash it all. Because that's what's really cool about all this stuff. Like, even though all the development that they've done, there's so much of these stones and they're so large they can't even touch them.
The modern man.
Modern man.
Isn't that incredible? Do you think this is this free, clean energy if you learn how to harness it, or what?
Absolutely. I really believe that. I think that's why I'm so gung-ho and I spend every chance I get to go investigate more and more, because I think I'm going to find like that one gem that has the answers right there for me, you know. And even I know exactly where I'm going to go this summer. My son and I have been going to this place, Lincoln State Park, and this is like a perfect example, you know, but it's like, you know, it's safe to be there, you know, there's no hunters, you know, it's a state park, there's people, they actually made a road through it, but like off of this road are these ginormous boulders, balanced, about to fall over everywhere you look, and I swear this is a perfect place to do the GPS, because you can almost tell it's like, there's a pattern, like these boulders aren't just like randomly just thrown there, it's like, they're like at an angle from each other, and like they correlate to each other, and a lot of alignments to the setting sun and the rising sun. You know, because we've been there early in the morning and at night. So that's one of the places, because the place is so large. You know, this summer we probably touched 1% of it. You know, and we were and that's near the road. We haven't really gone off the road yet, where there's probably even better stuff.
Jason, are there ever any haunted stories that go along with these locations where these monoliths are found?
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my locations I have been to, it's called Hampton City, and it's in Rhode Island, and they call it the haunted city. And the story goes, the settlers that came over here, nobody would live over there because they said it was haunted. And I'll tell you what's in these woods. If you go on my channel, it says Hampton City, and I found a quarry, a literal quarry, that they were ripping out stones that weighed over 1,000 tons.
1,000 tons.
And they had like you know, they like were cutting out certain shapes and pieces and sizes, and they were literally stacking them up like cordwood. Like, we're talking like, this is a place where nobody's supposed to be. Wow. And then even better, if you go deeper in the woods, I probably did about 10% of it. And once you start going in the woods, you start running into that same thing. These huge boulders literally balance in place there, and like they're like in like barely viewing distance from each other, but they're almost like lined up in a straight line.
Almost leading to something, mapping something out, plotting something out.
Absolutely, yes, and that's what really got me going in with the place we went over to in Smithfield, in Scituate, Rhode Island. A lot of these large boulders had these really deeply dug pits that were reinforced with stone wall, almost like you were to hold back the earth so it won't fall in.
Yeah.
And my son's like, "Oh, let's dig down. Let's see what's down." I'm like, "No way."
One wrong move and everything comes down.
You know, it's obviously like somebody's been back there. They took a lot of time, and there's no record of anybody even, you know, trying to quarry back there, or any company or anybody trying to live back there. And it's just these huge, and those are the stones I actually found from Google Earth. I was just doing a search on Google Earth, and I could zoom straight into the middle of these woods, and I would see these humongous stones out there. And that's what got me to go out to that spot.
That's really interesting. So that's a way to survey from behind your desk. You don't have to go out just searching blindly. Some of these could be seen on Google Earth. Yeah,
absolutely. And even you know, once you get a good spot, you can go right down to the street view, and you can actually zoom into the woods. And you know, if it's the right time of year that they drove by, you can see really deep into the woods. And then you can find your next spot like that. You know. and it's really interesting.
That's really cool.
So we'll have like a really localized spot of all these big boulders and stones, and then all of a sudden there'll be nothing. You can't find one stone. So it's like they're almost telling you, look, the stones are here. There's nothing over there. Don't look over there. It's over here.
Over here, dummy.
Yes, that's right. It's like follow the trail. You know. But even so I found in my research that there might be some connection back to Israel, because I've been doing research about these stones in Israel. They're almost identical to the stones I'm looking at over here.
Now wait a minute.
Stone walls, everything. The stone walls, they call them stone cairns. They call them here. They said the Native Americans made them. They're like perfectly balanced, like cone-shaped piles of stone, like perfectly, so like not one's out of place. There's no gaps. And they have these in Israel as well.
Now, what implications are there in just saying that?
Huge. And it ends up going back to some of these stories in the Bible. You know, it's about this lost 12 tribes of Egypt or of Israel, you know, that were exiled from their home, and they brought the technology throughout the world. You know, wherever they got scattered throughout the world, that's where it ended up. Because you know, these things are found in Korea, you know, Africa, South America, every continent. You know, of course, England. You know, over in Ireland. I mean, Italy has them. Everywhere you can think of. Russia has a whole bunch. Holy cow! They have some of the largest megalithic sites that I've ever seen. And nobody, there's barely any researchers even trying to figure out, you know, who did this and why, you know. It's like, it's really easy just to stick with the mainstream and just say that they're rocks. But once you start digging into it, like, that's why I went to Dighton Rock, to see that, you know, see these carvings on it. Because I've even found some strange carvings on these standing stones. It's so faded that you can barely see them.
So what's your opinion of Dighton Rock? Just since you brought it up just now, what do you think of Dighton Rock and the inscriptions on the face of that rock?
Yeah, and that goes back to what you're saying. What's the implications of that? You know, you got all these different. You got Norse writing. You got you got Portuguese. You got all these different known writings that are on this one rock. It's like almost like a calling card saying, we were here. Don't try to hide that we were here. You know, it's like, and the great thing is Phoenician. Yes, the Phoenician. That's another connection with the Israel being over in the Middle East over there. You know, so this, I'm thinking, so here's one of the connections I made. This North Star keeps coming up over and over again. And I found out that the ancient mariners' navigation tool was a North Star. So they could travel on the ocean day or night and know exactly where to go. And hence that they made it to the Americas, and they made it to Easter Island, and they made it to all these locations where you see these huge stones. You know, it's like the same people. And it's almost like depending on who landed where, you know, they had certain you know, they may have been better at a certain technique than the other person. You know, so but still the same basic technology. You know, same basic knowledge. You know, but some may have been more skilled at it. May have been able to lift larger stones. You know, but even here, these stones up here are really impressive. And they say the biggest Glacial Erratic, I think in the Northeast, or I think that they claim, you know, from this area anyway, is up in New Hampshire, and it's literally one humongous rectangular block. Like, it's not even like rounded or anything, and they literally say a glacier picked this up and placed it there.
Yet it's perfectly rectangular.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is in New Hampshire, you said?
Yeah, and that's another one I'm going to go see this summer to go up there and check that one out. Because New Hampshire is even growing up in New Hampshire, just going in the woods with my on the bikes or dirt bikes. I mean, we'd be in the middle of the woods and we'd see these stone walls and they'd be making all these weird shapes and everything, and we were like, what? We were questioning back then. I was like, these farmers must have been crazy. These standing stones, even my backyard has a standing stone, and we always used to just hang out on it. And, I just to mess with my dad, I was like, oh, Dad, what do you think about this thing? I was like, oh, yeah, we put that there when we dug the bleach field. There's absolutely no way, because this stone goes so deep, we can't even find the bottom. We dug down 10 feet.
Wow.
It's literally standing. I mean, I can't imagine, it is standing on bedrock? What?
Right. What's not sinking it deeper into the ground?
Yeah, and that's connected, linked up right with these stone walls too. So that was almost like my first inclination that there's something else going on here. Like these standing stones, the balance stones, like run right into these huge stone walls that there's so many of them. The amount of material, it's all the same people. And a lot of people will try to break it up, say, oh no, some people did this, some people did that. I'm like, no, all these major stones around here, they were definitely placed in. There's even evidence of a lot of quarrying. So, like, especially at one place, you can actually see they actually took a piece of a ledge and placed the stone that they carved and balanced it right near the ledge that they ripped it out of.
For what end? God, I wish I knew.
Exactly, And that's what really intrigued me when I saw that the treasure quest, when they were talking about they were actually searching for treasure and using these stone markers as guides to lead them to the treasure.
Did they find anything?
Yeah, they found a couple nice artifacts. And
wow,
the interesting one was the one where they had this huge stone that was pointing, but it was like almost like the old Colosseum where they would have they make the columns real tall, and basically that's what they did. It was like a bunch of stones stacked on top of each other, and there was one huge stone on top. And the guy actually rock climbed up there, and he reached inside, and he found this like an egg-shaped stone that was made of black granite, and it had these symbols on it.
Did you say symbols? You kind of broke up for a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. He reached in and had these really weird symbols on etched right into it, And black granite is supposed to be really hard material, and it was a very smooth cut.
Wow. Did they ever decipher the symbols?
Yeah, I think it ended up. I didn't get to watch the story, but I think it ended up pointing them to another location, and they ended up diving near this cave, and they found all these Mayan artifacts. And
wow.
And listen, this is the best part. So they found these Mayan artifacts. Well, they had to dive under the water, and they had these little spaces worked into the side of the river that they placed these artifacts in.
Wow.
So it's like they're literally hiding these artifacts for somebody in the future to go back and get them.
Right. Jason, I think you and I need to go on a treasure hunt.
Well, that's why I have a metal detector. So that's actually at Hampton City. I found this really strange metal. It's actually on one of my videos I made, and I think it's in the Hampton City video, and it shows the metal I found. It's really bizarre. It's literally it's definitely some type of metal that was molten at one time and that was dropped right onto the gravel and cooled there and never just forgot about. And I found pounds of this stuff.
Man, did you ever have it analyzed or anything?
No, I did contact a metal analyst, and their minimum, charge was $100, and they needed a good amount of material, and they would just destroy it. It was like a destructive net. So I need something like a electron microscope, lab to do something with it. But
well, if any of our listeners out there have these items to help Jason figure out what he found at Hampton City, let us know. Submissions at sos-radio.com.
And it's interesting. It's a lot of people initially, try to dismiss it, but actually in the same location I found 3 different types of metals as far as density and shape and texture. And even my dad, he's an engineer, he's an electrical engineer, he did some conductivity tests on it, and one of them came back extremely conductive. He actually thought it was silver.
It was conductive, so there it goes back to the energy thing.
Exactly, yeah. And just the fact that, you can get that type of material to that molten stage, and, that material is not cheap just to let it drop on the ground like that and leave it. That doesn't make any sense. But the location I found doesn't make any sense either, because nobody's supposed to be back there. That was right near the quarry, actually. But
wow.
Away from the quarry in the middle of the woods. I just happened to be walking through the woods with the metal detector, and it just started going off.
Incredible stuff, Jason. It really is. And just so listeners know, Hampton City, that's Smithfield, Rhode Island, correct?
That's right.
And yeah, listeners, you can check it out, what Jason's speaking about here, right on his YouTube channel, Glacial Erratic. It's going on just about 45 minutes since we've been talking to Jason Yancey. I would like to possibly, Jason, is it okay with you if we take a 30-second break?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, listeners, we'll be back right after this. As usual, I like to have the guest choose the music for this episode. So we'll take a 30-second break and see what Jason came up with us for music. We'll be right back.
Papa was a Rollin Stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. Only left us was alone. Oh, Papa was a Rollin Stone, my son, yeah. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. Only left us was alone.
And we're back. Jason chose Papa Was a Rolling Stone, the 1972 hit by The Temptations. Gee, I wonder why you chose that song, Jay. Perfect. Definitely fitting for the topic at hand. Yeah. Listeners, once again, we're here. I'm joined with Jason Yancey, hailing all the way from Rhode Island, far northeast United States. And we're talking about his fascinating research into Glacial Erratic. Jason, I wanted to ask, have there ever been any bodies, bones, significant human artifacts, human or otherwise, I guess, found near any of these glacial erratic sites?
Yeah, actually, there has been reports back in the day where where the settlers came over and they were going around and they found some I guess burial sites, and they were actually had they were larger than normal human skeletons, and supposedly supposedly they went to they would send the skeleton to the Smithsonian, and they'd say that they would lose it and they never would get it back. So it seems like there's like some type of cover-up going on. And there's actually another researcher up here, Jim Barrera, and he does the Ancient America magazine, and he's done a lot of research into this, and he's kind of he shows the balance of rock in North Salem, New York, and he makes a connection between these giants and these stoneworks, and I haven't personally found any, but yeah, like I said to you guys before, when I go to these sites, I feel like I'm in a graveyard. I feel like I need to be humble. It's just a feeling. I get the same exact feeling if I walk into a graveyard as if I walk into these sites that I go see. I get the same exact feeling like somebody's buried there.
A place of reverence.
Yeah, where they're buried. Even like I told you in that place in Scituate, Rhode Island, they had these like pits right in front of these balanced boulders, almost like that it was like they had dug a grave to place somebody down there. And that large boulder was like a marker to commemorate them, like we were to do, like if we were to do today, you know.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. So you have these boulders, you have this electricity, this vibration, this energy and vibration that you talked about during the first half of the show, and now you're saying a lot of the places seem to have a burial site in conjunction with these monoliths. If these monoliths are giving off energy, do you think it's also sort of warping the fabric between here and now and the other, allowing people buried on this site to pass back and forth easily?
It could be a definite possibility, because actually a lot of these stones that the Narragansett Indian, they actually call them spirit stones. And, you know, a lot of involvement with the spirit realm. And they have, you know, even the triangle over there, a lot of people saw, one article said they saw these lights moving towards this stone structure and never came back out.
So you're talking about the Bridgewater Triangle?
Yes. There was a report where people saw these lights in the sky. They came right down to these stones and never came out.
Do you recall which stone that was? What area that was?
I gotta, if I find that story, I'll have to send you a link to it. But
yeah,
you know, once I heard that story, I was like, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. You know.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, we went to that area called the Ledge, inside the Freetown State Forest, inside the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah.
And you know, that supposedly was an old ceremonial site
That's right.
for I can't recall which native tribe, but you know, it's also the site of UFO sightings, murder, deaths, suicides. You know, it all supposedly happened there. I'm wondering if that's the area where you say these people saw the lights going down, never to return. If it was in that Ledge area, because I'll tell you, there's a vibe there at Ledge. It's not evil, but it is, like you said, you feel like you have to be peaceful, respectful, give it reverence.
Exactly. That's right. Yep.
Interesting.
I feel like you walk in there with bad intentions, nothing's good going to come out of that. You know?
Wow, I like that. Yeah, we were definitely, you know, we were respectful.
Yeah.
We didn't want to piss off anything that might be there.
Yeah, but even like you said about the spirit realm too, you know, there was a story about where I went down into Ganjiwamp, and they didn't show us the site where this happened, but I guess because it's private property. But there are a whole lineup of these they call them what do you call them? Well, they're like stone chambers basically. And they're all lined up in a row. And I guess before, like, this is private property, a lady would walk her dog near there. Her dog ran into one of these stone chambers, and she ran in after her. And when she came out, everything had changed.
What do you mean?
So the story goes, when she came out, there wasn't just that one chamber that she went in. There was like hundreds of them, she said. And she said you know, when the dog ran out, she ran out the dog. She didn't know which one she came out of. And she said she spent hours trying to find out which one she went in. And she said,
oh, that's terrifying.
If you finally got the right one, and they said when she came back, she's gone for 4 days.
Oh. And I'm looking at Ganjiwamp. You have a bunch of Ganjiwamp videos here. Listeners, check it out. That's a scary story if I ever heard one. And that's in Connecticut, correct? Ganjiwamp is in Connecticut?
Yeah. And I plan to go back there, you know, to get some real detailed pictures of those, the balanced stones that are about to fall off the cliff, you know. And
yeah, if you get in those chambers, you let us know.
Yeah, and really, I might even end up just spending $100 for the personal tour, because then you can spend as much time as you want. And you can go on the private property, too, because they don't want the big groups going on the private property. But if you pay the $100, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for access to the private land.
Which holds these caves or what did you call them?
The stone chambers. That's exactly what you find up in at the American Stonehenge. The identical site. Actually, a lot of the people that were on the tour, I was showing them pictures of American Stonehenge, showing them these places are damn near identical and definitely made by the same people.
and that's amazing. And how far is Gunjawamp from American Stonehenge?
Looking like 200 miles, 300 miles easy.
300 miles easy. So how, again, we're going back to the same old question. How, who, how, what, why? How are these things there? How are they so similar?
That's right. Yep. And so maybe, one day with all my research, I'll be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together and start to figure out, who, I would think maybe one of these days I'll just get really lucky and I'll find, maybe like a stone chamber that has never been touched before and it has, artifacts or writing inside that hasn't been messed with yet, Because I'm telling you, one of the scary things about doing this research is walking into the woods, because, there's a lot of hunters and, something happens, you're pretty far from any help, so
right.
There is a pretty good risk in going out there, but I mean, for the things I'm finding, I don't hang around there all day long. I get my pictures and I get out of there,
Have you ever heard of fellow researchers, finding trouble while out on these hunts?
No, but I mean, what I found for searching, a lot of the good spots are littered with signs saying no trespassing, keep out. And they have the best, they have some of the best evidence and the best balanced stones I've ever seen, but you can't even go on the property. And because a lot of the little property around here, they have these reservoirs for to supply water to Providence. And they have these, ever since 9/11, they put up these fences like miles outside of the reservoir.
Oh, I see.
Go in there. So it's just a perfect convenience, now I can't go investigate these sites that I can see right over the fence,
Oh, how frustrating.
Yeah, it really sucks. But I mean, a lot of these sites are on state land, so state land, they usually don't have any no trespassing signs unless they have a building there, so. But I don't have to wear bright colored clothing, so a hunter doesn't think I'm a deer or something like that,
Right. Wow. Yeah, obviously we don't want you trespassing. We don't want you
too. Yeah, because going to the woods by yourself is kind of dangerous, But I always try to go with someone else, or at least let somebody know I'm going out.
Right. Yeah, we don't want that to happen to you, Jason.
Yeah, well, no, I even been so deep in the woods one time. I didn't know how to get out. I got lost.
Oof, terrifying.
Because literally, I was getting pulled into these woods deeper and deeper by these stones I was finding. And by the time I had all these pictures, I turned around and said, "Where the hell am I?"
Wow. Yeah, that's something I can't imagine that being in. Oh man, we don't have that problem here in Chicago.
Oh man.
Well, tell me really quick. Not really quick. Tell me about. So you're calling it American Stonehenge. How does it compare to the Stonehenge in, what is it? Is it in Scotland? Where is Stonehenge again? I should know this.
Yeah, I think it's over in England, Scotland, something like that. Yeah, and so the reason why they call it American Stonehenge is basically the standing stones and the alignments to the summer and winter solstice. So basically, American Stonehenge is basically like a huge ceremonial site to mark all these important dates, that you need to know, I guess, if you're going to farm or if you're going to do anything of importance, you need to know, exactly when the time is to do something. But I mean, even just that, to do all this work just for that purpose, it seems like an awful lot of work just to mark calendar dates.
There was some strong beliefs with those dates, whatever they were.
Absolutely, yeah. They're really trying to set those dates in stone to know that these are very important dates that we have to go by, And even American Stonehenge, they have that sacrificial table there. It's like you could actually put somebody on there and chop them up, and all the blood would pour into a cup at the bottom.
Really?
Yeah, some people call it a cider press, but the cider press doesn't match the site. When you have standing stones that are aligned with the moon, stars, and all this stuff, it's definitely a ceremonial site.
Wow.
Which I guess that has its connection with the Stonehenge over in England, where it's a ceremonial site with the same I think the winter solstice, the sun comes right in between the main megalithic pillars, right up the middle, and only on that one day. And then they have a couple other markers for the other equinoxes. So it's definitely some people that had knowledge of the stars, and the importance of what they did, like I said, it has to do with some of this cosmic energy that we don't know about, but for some reason they knew all about it.
They sure did. Yeah, and just so the listeners know, Jason, you were correct. It's in the Stonehenge is in Wiltshire, England, not Scotland. You were right, England. So
England, right?
So there are similarities between England Stonehenge and American Stonehenge. Both are lining up to major celestial events, whether it's the winter solstice or equinox or what have you. There's if I'm understanding you correctly, there's a sacrificial table. Is that in both Stonehenge and American Stonehenge?
Just the American Stonehenge, as far as I know. Maybe there was one at the original Stonehenge, perhaps, but I guess it's been through a lot of stones getting knocked over and stuff like that, so it's far from the original setup. But the American Stonehenge, it was pretty well preserved, which really surprised me. You think somebody would come in there and just start knocking things over, but I guess the stones are pretty big, so it's going to be hard to do that without an excavator.
Incredible. And your Stonehenge, American Stonehenge, that was where you grew up, correct?
That's right, yeah. And the interesting part is I had no knowledge. Nobody even ever told me about it until I was moved out of New Hampshire.
Wow.
So my first time visiting American Stonehenge was 2 years after I moved out and I was in college. I went up one day. I went up one weekend when I heard about it. I thought for myself. But the carbon dating was really gets me, because the way they had that carbon dating, they actually had to move these large stones, and they found this old burn pit, and they took the carbon from the burned wood, and they found that date of 4,000 years.
4,000 years ago.
Yeah, and carbon dating, I mean, the tour guide I got you on, he said he doesn't trust carbon dating, but this is all scientific stuff, This is stuff that can be repeated over and over again. It's kind of hard to
good point.
Dismiss repeatable evidence,
Repeatable evidence, you're right. You got a great point.
So in a lot of these other sites, I swear, if they did the same type of carbon dating, they'd probably come up with the same date about 4,000 years ago. And
so
and that date actually places perfectly too with this ancient. So even as they could even be these people from Atlantis, supposedly. Atlantis is supposed to be a fake thing, but it seems like it was actually a real place at one time. And it could have something to do with they were said to have this crystal technology. And crystals
I have
are
heard
based
that.
off the
You're
frequency. Right. Every crystal has its own base frequency, and that's why a lot of people use stones for healing, because if they hold the stone with them, it emits this frequency into their body, and it's a fixed frequency into these stones. And even in the Bible, they have like the breastplate of Aaron. It's 12 different stones, and they all have certain frequencies for healing purposes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
heavy stuff.
Deep. Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've used crystals before. Joe Erie on this show, my co-host, you met him. He's a firm believer in the healing power of crystals and stones.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a splitting headache one time. I held green calcite, and the damn headache went away. So, I mean, I could attest to this stuff.
Yeah.
It just deepens this mystery.
Well, even for me, I had a hip problem. They call it it was an inflammation of the hip bursa, and you know, I was on a cane for at least 2 years, and I kid you not, one day I started, you know, holding these stones with me and carrying around, and I swear I started getting better after that. And I had tried everything, you know, and now I don't need a cane, and I can walk up the 2 flights of stairs to get to work. I was literally to the point where I was going to quit my job because I couldn't get up the stairs.
Man, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, I think we don't give. I don't think modern man gives past man. You know, these people we're talking about who built these structures, whoever they were. I don't think we give them enough credit. I think in our mind, in today's society's mind, they were just kind of dumb. Neanderthals, the wrong word because we're talking like dumb brutes. They weren't smart. You know, we're the only smart ones. We have computers, we have cell phones, we have technology.
Yeah, we got cars.
They harnessed right. I don't think we give them enough credit. I think they had their own form of electronics, technology, transportation,
and even, you know, because I was really interested in quartz and you know how it works, and there's actually a video on YouTube that says quartz for war or something like that, where they would take these quartz and make radios out of them, basically. And that was like the breaking technology back then. They'd actually use quartz to make the radio work. And what's really interesting is like the guy in Coral Castle, he had claimed he made his own crystal radio.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's definitely a little correlation between the two. Yeah. So he's definitely messing with the frequency coming from the crystal. And I even think, you know, he was maybe even pulling energy from the crystal, just like the old stories go about Atlantis. That Atlantis was crystal powered. You know, and they use crystals for everything, you know. It's just like you say, it's just a lost technology that we just don't even bother, you know, because we think we're so advanced, why even bother with that stuff, you know?
Exactly right. Well, what do you think would happen if we were able to harness the power once again, if you will? What would happen to modern society, do you think?
I think it'd be a game changer. You know, I know there's a big thing about national security, and, you know, I know the government makes a lot of money off of taxing gasoline and all that stuff. So if they saw gas go away, they'd have to come up with some other way to get that money. You know, so they're not really interested in trying to get rid of gas, that's for sure, because they don't want to lose that extra tax income, you know. So, but as far as, you know, as the individual person being able to get ahead without having to spend $1 million on, you know, energy, this is like a game changer. This is an equalizer. So now somebody that doesn't have much, now they have power, like unlimited power, you know. This is what I think the type of technology they're dealing with, because the amount of energy used to carve and move these stones is just huge. It's got to be like, let's say it's going to be some extremely efficient, compact energy that they were using. That like anybody can harness anywhere in the world, you know. It's not like, you know, once you know how to do it, you know how to do it, and anybody can do it anywhere. You know, you don't have to go to some special manufacturer to get this. You just have to know the secret of how to put it together, and then you can get the energy out of it. You know.
And isn't that what you touched on Tesla earlier? That's
Absolutely.
what Tesla was after.
Yeah, he was after that. Yep. And just so happens too, when he died, all of his patents got snatched up and all his work, that was all confiscated or sold off. So.
Yeah, confiscated, deemed classified,
absolutely.
destroyed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about technology too. It can be used for good purposes or bad purposes. So let's say the government already does have it, they could be using it and we don't even know it.
It's true.
Yeah.
No, I really think you're onto something here. I think this glacial erratic topic really needs to be investigated. I think there's something
Absolutely. Yeah. And I can't wait to start experimenting, because you never know what you're going to find when you start messing around. That's how I found about the two stones pushing against each other. I was just, one day I was like, I wonder if these stones really do put out some energy. And it just so happened I decided to move them across, and sure enough, it really took me by surprise, though. Actually, when I was doing it at first, I was moving a neodymium magnet across a quartz stone, and I was noticing that it was interacting with it, And quartz stone, there's no magnetic property it's supposed to be. So I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This quartz is interacting with this field. And then just so happens I had another quartz stone right next to me, and I said, let me put down this magnet and let me put the quartz stone over the other quartz stone. And sure enough, things start pushing against each other.
Amazing. And that's just on a small scale.
I started showing everybody. Yeah, I started showing everybody. And you know what? I did an experiment too. I laid a whole bunch of quartz stones just laying right on the wooden table. And I would take another quartz stone and just move it across the top of them. I could literally feel the bumps. It felt like I was moving the stone over little bumps. But it was like interacting with each individual field of each stone. And I could feel each one as it passed from one to another, because each stone had a different strength. So, one would be pushing it harder, and then it'd be less and then harder. And as you move the stone along, you can feel the pattern of the stones below it without even touching.
Incredible. Listeners, all I can say is try this experiment yourself. See what Jason's talking about. It is real. Then just imagine it a scale 100 times what you're experiencing with the small stones. And that's what he's really driving towards here. This energy.
Yep.
Wow. Well, I think we should probably start bringing it to a close. Yep. I do want to tease the audience a little bit, because not only is Jason an expert on glacial erratic, Jason also happens to be an alien contactee, possibly abductee as well. Jason has another YouTube channel called Chemical Trail. Correct, Jason? Did I say that right? Chemical Trail?
That's right, yep.
Where he gets into a lot more extraterrestrial stuff, a lot more extraterrestrial experiences that he's had, research he's done, and some of his stories are heart-stopping, especially if you're like me, who's really freaked out by stuff like that. Jason, could we expect to possibly have you back on another episode?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, because some of your research into UFOs, extraterrestrial, your personal stories they're fascinating. And the listeners, they got to hear it. So we would love to have you back at some time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to get my stories out there and get my research out there, because it's a little known topic, and people are busy watching TV and stuff nowadays, but this stuff is like something anybody can go out and start searching. I guarantee you'll find something that doesn't match the official story.
You know what? That's a great point. It's, get up off the couch, get out from behind your computer monitors, and lift your head up from your mobile phones and get out there. And you could find exactly what you're finding.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's great. And no, thank you for being a guest. We've been wanting to do this for a number of months now, and we're finally able to get it together. Listeners, this interview is being done on Google Voice, so, apologize for any interference or static here and there. This is being done on Google Voice. The powers that be just couldn't get our Skype connections to work, so we had to come up with an alternate means to interview Jason. So please forgive that. I am under the weather, so hopefully my voice is coming out fairly clear. Been sick for quite a while, but again, as always, listeners, thank you for tuning in. And Jason Knight, take us home.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to the SOS-Radio podcast. Be sure to rate us on iTunes and Google Play Music. Download our free mobile app by searching Supernatural Occurrence Studies on Google Play, Apple App Store, and Amazon App Store. Visit us online for ghostly photos that coincide with our podcasts, videos, and other exclusive content at sos-radio.com, chicagosos.com, and supernaturaloccurrencestudies.com. Follow us on Facebook at SOS-Radio. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chicago Ghosts. We're on YouTube at Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies. Follow Jason Knight on Google+. Remember, that's Knight, N-H-Y-T-E. Email us anytime at submissions@sos-radio.com. And call or text 872-529-0-SOS. That's Chicago area code 872-529-0767. And as always, kind listeners, keep your head up, eyes open, and question everything.
You want to save your soul from hell, riding on our range. Cowboy, change your ways today. Oh. With us you will ride, at the devil's herd.